Hello, everybody. Welcome to an episode of the Retail Price Talk. Today, with me, I have George Boretos, and we're going to talk about the exciting topic of how do you price for new products. This has been a challenge in retail, having worked in it for 18 years with Rapid Pricer. I've been doing pricing consulting, we've been doing pricing for fresh produce. Almost always a question comes up: how do we handle pricing for new products? Do we have a model for this? Do we have an algorithm for it? Almost always it's been a combination of let's get started with, once we have data we will do something about it, but now we might have a solution. With me we have George, welcome to the podcast. Very excited to have you here. Please tell us something about yourself and your company.
Hi Kiran and everyone, and first of all, thanks for the invitation. Very happy to be here today and discuss about pricing, which is my favorite subject as well. I've been involved in pricing for more than 25 years, so my whole professional experience. In the beginning, by leading marketing functions, mostly commercial functions, and part of these functions was also the pricing part of the business. So I was responsible to run pricing plus some very challenging pricing exercises. So I've seen everything from the customer side with some failures, obviously. This is how we learn, but also some important successes as well. I learned a lot for 20 years or so, and then I decided to do something on my own. So the past 7-8 years now, I became a startupper, and I've launched 3 startup companies so far, all in the AI space, because this is my thing and this is something that I specialize to. And also price optimization. So I have designed price optimization using AI applications. And this is exactly what I do with my last company. It's called Future Up, as you can see with the logo. And it's all about optimizing prices for businesses using AI, taking into account also macro, market, and other important conditions. So again, great to be here today with you to discuss about pricing.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. So just to get everybody a clearer understanding of the verticals you work with, George. Primarily, Rapid Pricer and we've been working in the retail B2C pricing space. Does your experience have both B2B, B2C, or is it one way or another?
It's both. I would say that most of my experience comes from B2B because as a business executive, I was working in software vendors in the B2B enterprise software market. So obviously I had more experience there, but also I had customers and cases from the B2C sector as well.
Understood. So we will dive into the topic of pricing for new products. So let's say, if possible, let's try to keep it a little bit more towards what our retailers do, but also use examples of how does it apply for B2B also, maybe, George, just so that we get a clear understanding. If you're ready, I will fire away the first questions, right? So what are the fundamental factors somebody should consider? It could be a retailer or a business. What should they consider when pricing a new product? Should they just start with something and figure out when the data comes in, or are other ideas which we could explore?
Yeah. Well, first of all, pricing is complex and challenging anyway. And if you're talking about a new product, launch is even more complicated, it's even more challenging for the simple reason because you don't have a lot of data. You don't have past sales or pricing data, which is important for pricing. Depending on the nature of the product, of the new product launch, this may be more or less challenging. For instance, it's a different thing if you are launching a new replacement of a previous product, for instance, or it's a completely new product, a completely new market. Just think about iPad, for instance. If you are launching and pricing the new version of iPad Air, it has some challenges, but obviously you know lots of things. If you were back before 10 years or so, more than 10 years, when the first iPad was launched, obviously it was a more difficult and challenging exercise. And this is again because we don't have a lot of data. But even if you don't have a lot of data, past data, you do have something. You have benchmark data. You want to create a sort of a proxy for your pricing and create some boundaries or frame your pricing. So, for instance, you might have some competitive products and you know their pricing, or you might have some similar replacement products or complementary products. Again, they are great to create a proxy for your pricing. Or you also have internal or external experts. They know the market. They more or less have an instinctive approach on building their sales and market estimates and also pricing estimates. And this is a great source of information. You should definitely get leverage that as well. And of course, if you don't have anything at all, unfortunately, in many new product launches, you don't have any information at all, then you have pricing research. You can definitely do that. And this is extremely important to gain some additional insights directly from the market. And this is not the end of it. You have lots of many other things to consider as well, which I consider very important. In many cases, you do have some internal limitations, your costs, for instance, or you have some profitability requirements from your finance department or your CEO or someone, and you need to consider that as well. You have supply possibly limitations for you or your competitors. This is extremely important. Then you can consider your differentiation against your either competitors or in some cases the best alternative if it's not a mature market then. If it is a weak differentiation or if it is a strong differentiation, this will dictate a completely different pricing strategy. So you need to take this into consideration, plus the environment. If you are targeting specific markets, I mean countries or geographies, and you know that there are some macroeconomic facts which are affecting the market, you have an economic slowdown, you have inflation, all the sorts of things that we've been witnessing the past 18 months or so. And they are very important. Obviously, you need to factor this in order to understand what the best pricing is for your new product.
Very interesting. Very interesting. What you especially said about the differentiation makes an impact on your pricing really resonates. Say, for example, if you're entering a market which is highly commoditized, everybody's selling the same product, then you better be competitive to enter the market. But if it is a brand new product which is nobody's launched in that space, you might have some flexibility to have a different price point. Good points. Thank you for that. So in spite of all of this, typically when somebody approaches this price, it could be a retailer, it could be B2B. What are some common mistakes, common pitfalls you see businesses making when they price these new products?
I would say the first one is not a common mistake for retailers alone, but for all pricing people or all commercial people. They follow the cost plus methodology, because it's the easiest thing to do. It's common sense, it's many things. But again, cost plus is just one part of the equation. It's mostly the internal part of the equation. How do you feel about your prices, but not how the customer feels about your prices. And obviously, the customer part of the equation is the most important one, and you are missing that. So it's wrong, but I see that happening all of the time. Right. And one other thing that I see happening in many cases in retail, but other industries and businesses as well, is what I call lazy pricing. Lazy pricing, I mean what? It's the opposite of differentiated pricing. Yep. Instead of having a different price for different market segments or for different countries, if you are a multinational retail store or a company, instead of doing that, you just do the pricing exercise once. And it's then a one size fits all. You perhaps fine tune it a bit, but that's all there is to it. Obviously, this is not the right way to go in pricing, because there are many countries that they can afford to pay 10 times less than other countries because of income discrepancies, because of inflation, because of many other factors. So you need to factor these macro market or other indicators and circumstances into your pricing exercise and process and strategy. Otherwise, you've been a bit lazy. This is why I call it lazy pricing. Yeah. And unfortunately, the results will show that, will demonstrate that you've been lazy, didn't do your homework.
Now, it is unbelievable. Such big business establishments I've worked with also, George, they simply have like an X% margin per category kind of a rule, while the customer simply doesn't care how much it costs for you to make that product. The value he places on the product is based on his demand. So definitely something businesses should avoid. I'm with you there 100%.
Another point, yes. I know that you want to ask something, but I remember something that our marketing teacher, when I did my MBA in Imperial College in London, before ages, and he told us that your cost is internal. It's an internal thing, exactly as you said. If the customer wants to pay, let's say, 10 euros and your cost is 11 euros, then simply you're out of business, but you simply don't know it.
Right,
There's
right,
nothing you can do. You cannot
right.
charge 11 or 12 because you have some internal
Mhm.
limitations or problems or issues. You either solve the issues or you go out of business and someone else gets your business, your clientele, your everything.
Right, right. Very true. So I like the fact that your profile includes experience in human psychology, there is science, there is pricing strategy. It's a very good combination, George. What thoughts do you have on how consumer psychology affects the perceived value of a product when it comes to pricing?
Although obviously I'm not a psychologist, I have some very, very general knowledge about that. More specific knowledge as far as pricing, psychological pricing is concerned for obvious reasons. And I have to say that I'm always impressed by the fact that all of us fall for the same traps again and again of psychological tricks that have been used in our business, in retail or anything else for ages. We know all about it, and again we fall for the same tricks. Let me give you a couple of examples. I fall for the same tricks, by the way, again and again.
Yeah,
The usual one, 99.99 cents or euros or dollars or whatever. We all know what is happening there. We've seen it in supermarkets, we've seen it in retail stores. We all understand that it's a deception, sort of a deception, but we all fall for it. And we never understand until it's too late after we have made the purchase. Also, something else which I see happening all of the time, I do it all of the time, is the implied quality from premium pricing. You see different prices from products, especially for products where you're not able to actually evaluate their actual quality and specifications, because in most retail products, we don't know a lot about the
right.
science of the manufacturing process or whatever. So we don't have the capacity to really evaluate quality in most cases. So we try to figure out the quality based on what? The price. Obviously, that's a mistake. And
Mm,
obviously, someone can take advantage of that. And also, this results in some cases some weird looking demand curves because of the effect of affecting pricing, affecting not just demand, but also the perceived quality of the product. There are many other psychological tricks like triangulation, for instance, and many other that are happening all of the time, and all of us fall for it. It's amazing. I
yeah.
love this subject, by the way.
Absolutely,
Great.
absolutely. We feel like we should be writing a blog together on this topic. Very, very interesting
Let's
indeed.
do that. Why not?
One day. All right. So now
Yeah,
specific
definitely.
tools or techniques which businesses can use to analyze market data and optimize new pricing. I know you have done a lot of research on this, a lot of experiments. Like you said, some of them were learning experience. Now we have success stories. What do you have as recommendations along these lines, George?
What I can say is that retailers and everyone else right now is very, very lucky because they live in this age where we do have many resources and many tools to help us with our pricing. We didn't have that before 20 years or so. So first of all, especially for retail and especially for e-commerce, because most of the prices are published somewhere out there on the web, we do have price aggregators and e-places where we can go and get aggregated information, comparison information about different products, either all around the world or for specific markets. This is a huge and very, very important source of information. Obviously, everyone can and should take advantage of that. Then, even in pricing research, we referred to pricing research before, which is extremely important for existing products, but even more important for new products where we don't have any information at all. But the problem with market research, pricing research included, is that your customers have a hidden agenda. So it's not necessarily true that tell you exactly what they think. This is where neuroscience comes into the picture, where you use response times. Sometimes you plug in electrodes to monitor brain waves and things like that, highly advanced things, in order to understand what the customer is really thinking about your pricing and value proposition, not what they're saying and disclosing at the time. I have used that. We don't do neuroscience, but we have partners who do neuroscience projects. We have done it in the recent past, and it works brilliantly. It gives us a very cleansed data set of inputs to feed into our predictive models, and it works just fine.
Excellent.
Also, yeah, it's really amazing.
So
And
let's
of
say
course,
somebody,
yeah,
let's say somebody wants
of
to run
course.
this experiment, right? They're about to launch a product. They say, George, let's find out through neuroscience what should be the right price point for this B. How would you approach the client?
I can tell you what we did for a specific client that we had a project before a couple of months. That was a completely new product in a new market, a new product category. So there was no reference point at all. So we partnered with a company called Neurensics, a pioneer in neuroscience. They did the whole neuroscience pricing research. So they went to Germany and they gathered pricing research data. And that was my input data for my predictive models. And the job for my predictive models was to do two things. First of all, to extrapolate data from Germany, from the actual data that we had, to other countries based on macroeconomic conditions in other countries, and then to create scenarios based on inflation, exchange rates, income, how this can unfold and change in the following years, or whatever. And this is what we delivered. So the company, from starting from zero, they didn't have anything else apart from their cost per device. It was a device in this case. Now they have a complete map, geographical map, on around 40 countries that were the initial targets, and they have their potential penetration rates, suggested prices, and all the marvelous things that help them identify the right targets and prioritize their product launch. And it worked really fine, and everybody was happy.
Very interesting and a very brand new area of science in pricing. So congratulations on making success. It's not easy to model out of thin air and to actually make it work.
Yeah, thanks on behalf of everyone, Neurensics, Futura, but also the customer.
Absolutely. Great. So now I know how somebody can use this, but once people start buying something, so we have a actual very initial, or maybe it's even some surveys or questionnaires, there is feedback coming in from customers, right? How can you use that, George, to make any corrections or make better decisions when it comes to new product pricing?
I will reverse the question. How can you not use that?
Okay.
You should always use customer feedback. For the single most important reason for that is that you were never 100% right with whatever you had in mind, with whatever you're implementing. I'm talking about your product, your value proposition, and also your pricing. Regardless how well you did your homework, research, or whatever, you applied all the wonderful predictive AI tools, you did it all brilliantly. Eventually, you have a strategy, and you go out there and you see that there are some problems, some issues. There is always room for improvement. And the only way to understand that is to get customer feedback. There are many ways and many channels to get that. It would be as simple as tracking down your support lines and tickets and see if there are any problems, issues, or suggestions from the customer side. Complaint lines also, it's a valuable source of information. Or it could be structured market research, satisfaction research, or it could be pricing research. It could be whatever you like to do, but the only thing that you cannot afford to do is not get any customer feedback, because in the end you will need to fine tune and fix many things. And usually pricing, especially big changes in prices, or risky things like introducing, pricing-wise, I mean, a new product launch, they need many iterations in order to eventually fine-tune and stabilize your pricing strategy and succeed in what you are doing.
Right. So make use of whatever is available to structure it to make a better decision also on an ongoing basis. Fantastic. So now we know kind of how we could approach what is possible, what are the good things, but well, we want to get started immediately, right? So we want to do some quick things. What are some quick wins, some actionable tips which retailers and other businesses can use, George, to implement effective pricing, basically?
There are many, and most of them are cheap or free, and doesn't take a lot of time to do so. The first thing that I will do for a new product launch, it will be some simple search to identify possible proxies for my pricing, boundaries for my pricing, how to frame it. So benchmark prices. Do I have competitors or best alternatives? I should seek out their, let's say, e-commerce sites or whatever and track down their prices. Are there any market reports? In many cases, there are. So I should use that. As we said before, even judgmental approaches, asking people who are experts in the market is extremely important. You need to have some benchmark, some point of reference. But other than that, because this is obviously something just to frame your pricing, not to identify 100% your pricing, you do need, especially if we're talking about new product launches, you do need some pricing research. It could be with neuroscience, it could be without neuroscience, it could be whatever, but you need some sort of pricing prospective customer data in order to have some more sound information and data to do your analysis. Also, I believe that it is very, very important to understand your limitations. Your limitations may be requirements. So sometimes your best optimum price suggested by a predictive AI model, it's, let's say, 10 euros, but you have a, let's say, cost of 8 euros and you need at least 30% profitability. So you need to charge something less. You expect less in revenue, it's less optimized, but still it might be a great case. You need to take into consideration all these things or limitations that your competitors may have. You need also to understand a lot your environment. I cannot not overemphasize it, emphasize this more. It's so important to understand all the different markets that you are launching your products or you are willing to launch your products, because in most cases, these are different markets with different circumstances and they need a different pricing. It's out of chance that some countries resemble each other and you can have almost the same pricing, but most cases you will need different pricing strategies for most markets or countries. And one last thing that I would suggest, and it could be easy or not so easy, it depends on what you are going to do, is to leverage all the resources that are out there to help you with your pricing. The first thing is hire expert help. Obviously, there are people out there who really know their stuff regarding pricing. There are so many different methodologies, great methodologies that you can apply, and we cannot know them all and have practical experience. But there are some agencies or specialized pricing consultants, they know their stuff. You can hire them. I mean, a customer can hire them, and they can help them a lot. Also, predictive AI tools. There are predictive AI tools out there. Some of them use econometric analysis, which is best, in my opinion. This is what we are using in Future App. I think this is the best way to go. And they can have some great accuracy and in-depth predictive insights leveraging these tools. And the last resource that they should use is themselves. Because in the end, your instincts, your experience, everything is on top of everything else. Any predictive AI tool, any pricing research, all these things are just what? They are just enablers, facilitators. They are things that help you in the end inform your decision making and understand what's the best course of action. But in the end, humans in the loop is not just critical, it's essential, and we want them there. We want us there. The last part is sometimes the most difficult to understand. Because we tend to believe, many people, lots of people tend to believe that, okay, we hired someone, they will do everything for us. It doesn't work like that. Or we have deployed a new AI system, so everything is fully automated, so we don't need any pricing people, we don't need anyone within the company. It doesn't work like that. Just think about ChatGPT and using that. We know all the things with ChatGPT, hallucinations and problematic answers and all these things. If you don't have someone who really understands what she is receiving, then you would be receiving rubbish and think that this is the right direction to follow. And this is very dangerous. You need humans in the loop.
Yeah, absolutely. So lots of tips and tricks and tools and methodologies we could use for pricing, but definitely don't be lazy. Don't do lazy pricing is George's number one recommendation. So thank you so much for all your thoughts, George. If our listeners want to connect with you, what is the best way to get in touch?
Well, my website, go to www.futureup.io. And there is a contact form there, or they can schedule a call directly from the site.
Understood. Thank you. And on this podcast, I would put links of our contact information also as well. If anybody wants to reach out to price a new product or to explore a pricing exercise yourself, please feel free to let us know. I quickly also want to mention, if you want to do it yourself, I have this book we have. It is called The Expert Guide to Retail Pricing. It's all about building your own approach and analytical framework to do pricing on an everyday basis, but it does not cover how to do new product pricing. For that, George and I will be ready to make it happen for you guys whenever you're interested. But thank you so much for your time and attention. Thanks, George, for being in the show. It was a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for the invitation. It was great discussing about pricing. So happy pricing, everyone.
Happy pricing.